Welcome to the Wildcat Wilderness Garden. Today we're going to be talking about growing your own. So why would you want to do that? There are very many good reasons. One of them is that you can get to grow exactly what you like to eat. It's also going to be really local because it's going to be in your own house or in your own garden or in your own pot or windowsill, and that means you can pick it as you go along. It's going to be really fresh, and also it's going to avoid on those shopping trips. Okay, so you haven't got any seeds. What are you going to do? Why don't you have a look in your spice cabinet? You'd be amazed what you can find in there that you can grow. There are things like coriander, mustard seeds, fennel, fenugreek, dill. That's just a few of them that you might be able to grow indoors as well. And obviously if they're herbs, they're going to be high value, so it's going to also save you money. The other thing that you might want to think about in your store cupboard is if you've got any peas or beans lying around. I had some old peas here, and they're perfectly good to plant. All you need to do is give them a good soak overnight, and then plant them in some compost in a container. And with any seeds, the rule of thumb is whatever depth it is, the size of the seed has to go at least twice the depth, the size of the seed. Okay, so you might have got some seeds. The other thing you might want to think about is inside every single tomato, you've got loads and loads of seeds. Let's cut it open, take out the seeds, give them a little rinse, and then leave them to dry on a piece of kitchen paper for a couple of days. Take them off, pop them in your plot. And everybody somewhere in their kitchen has got the missing potato. The potato at the back of the tray that started to sprout. So why don't you just pop that in a sack with some compost, peat free mind you, and then every time you see a sprout coming up, just cover it over with some more earth. Okay, it's a good thing to do this time of year. So in terms of growing your own, choose something that you're going to like, something that you eat, maybe something like herbs, as I said, which are higher value, because they're going to come up every single year because they're perennials. Or try something new. One thing I tried last year was something called oca, and you get to eat, it's a root crop, you get to eat the roots, and that's it. But also during the summer, you get to eat the leaves as well, which are nice in a salad. So there's some ideas in terms of your seeds. So I haven't got a pot. What am I going to use? Well, at this point in time, have a look in your recycling bin. There's heaps and heaps of things you can use. You can grow in an old egg carton. You could grow actually in the eggshells themselves. Just pop a seed in there with some compost. You could try plastic cup. Yogurt containers, they're a really good one, okay? Or margarine tubs. We've also got some meat trays here, and that was also a tomato one. So some of them are plastic and come with holes in. Others, what else we got here? Oh, even the more friendly ones here that are made of cardboard. You can still plant in that. Okay. What you need to make sure that whatever you're going to put the soil in has got some drainage holes in. So what you want to do is create some holes in your pot. So, well, there's another thing that you can use. Only old cans. Take the labels off, and then with a hammer and a nail, knock some holes in the bottom. Just be careful with that one. If not, with your yogurt pot, what you want to do is create some holes in it. Use a screw or something over the top, press down, screw it down. If you haven't got a screw, then how about a skewer? Just be careful when you're doing this, okay? And you can also make that hole a little bit bigger using a screwdriver like this. Just be careful again when you're using it. You can always do it on a chopping board as well, just to get those holes. So once you've created a series of holes in the bottom there, you'll just want to sit that. So let's do that. stick that in some sort of tray. So let's have a look. We've got a meat tray here, or vegetable tray. That can sit in there with the soil and your seeds in. And what else could we use? Well, to make this work even better, what you can do is create your own mini greenhouse. Now to do that, what you need is one of the other plastic, either like that, for instance, or a bigger one like that. And you pop that over the top, and there you've got your mini greenhouse. The other thing that you can do is, everybody in their bathroom has got one of these. Bet you, lying around. These make the most wonderful greenhouses. So I'm going to take out my shower cap, and then all I'd need to do, once my seeds are in there, pop that over the top there, obviously having watered it. Look at that, perfect greenhouse environment. Okay, so there's a couple of the things that you'll find in your recycling bin. The other thing that you might want to look at and you could use is a toilet roll. What we need to do is make a couple of slits in the bottom, about 2/3 up, or 1/4 up rather, all the way round. Just fold that in, just to create a base. And there we go, one pot. And obviously if you're using something like cardboard, if you're then going to plant it outside, then that can go directly into the soil, because that's going to perish in the soil as well. Okay, the other thing you could use, and very handy, milk cartons. Now these you just need a sharp pair of scissors. So I'm going to cut off the bottom to create my container. Scissors in and cut all the way round. In fact, there's quite a lot you can actually do with these milk containers. So that's my little pot for growing in. Okay, that I'd need to put some holes in. The other thing is, obviously if you're going to plant anything, you're going to want to label it. So that's a good idea. Cut out bits of plastic and make some plant labels, because you want to remember what you've planted. Okay. And then with this end, what you can do is actually just make yourself a little scoop. So to do that, cut towards the handle, diagonally, and there you leave the lid on in this case, and there we've got a little scoop that you can use for your compost as well. What else have I got? In terms of plant labels, the other thing you can do with the other part of your tin that maybe you're growing in is create a plant label. So the top bit of your tin, all you'll need to do is get your Sharpie or other permanent marker, write on what you're growing. So I'm going to grow tomatoes, and then you can get an old fork or something to support it. Goes on like that, and then into the soil. That's a great one if you're growing outside as well. There's other bits of plastic. We had loads of this at the Wildcat Wilderness, so we just cut this up and use that as plant labels as well. And what else have I got? Oh, if you're growing some things outside, there's, apart from the fact that you can use the bottom of these, again, sharp pair of scissors, just be careful when you're doing this. Cut all the way round. Again, make some holes in the bottom with your skewer or your screw. You've got another container that you can use. And then the top bit of this, you can actually use as a cloche. Again, a mini greenhouse. So if I was growing in my tin here, I would pop that over the top There we go, another mini greenhouse. Or if you've planted something outside and it's still a bit chilly, then you can pop this over the top of every individual plant. And in fact, we put some lettuce out recently that we've been growing in our polytunnel, and it's been a bit chilly. So I think today what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut some of these up, maybe a little shorter, and I'm going to put these over the top of all our lettuce plants. If you're leaving them outside, obviously they want to get some water, so you can do it like that, but also what you can do is, so they get a little bit of water, is take the lid off. So there we go. Okay, other things that you might find, on your bottles, if you find, or you've got one of these really big ones, they're even better, because as your plants get bigger, obviously you've got a much bigger cloche over the top there. You might also find mushroom trays, quite often left outside grocery stores, etc. These are great for growing in, so all you'd need to do there is get some of the packaging. We've always got too much of this lying around. Line bottom of your box, your mushroom box, and then pop your soil, your compost in there, and that's great for growing. These are really, really good if you've got something bigger, for growing something called microgreens. Now, microgreens are essentially just the little starter vegetables. So these are like, you grow them to about that size, and they're sort of a mini salad, highly nutritious. So if you've got some old seeds lying around, for instance, you could use those. You just plant them really, really close together, in some compost. Doesn't need to be very thick at all. And what you're doing is, it's just that starter growth that you're going to eat. So things like radishes, beetroots, broccoli, kale, anything from the cabbage family works really well for this as well. And things like coriander. If you don't want a really big herb, then a coriander makes an ideal micro green as well. And other containers, well, even better if they're like this, because again, these can be planted directly into the soil, or you could always make one out of paper. Now, to do that, you just need a jar. Cut your paper. Just going to do a little strip here. I'm going to make sure I've got enough. So I'm going to do that. You want to make sure you've got enough to wrap around the bottom of it to create the base. So I've got a piece of paper like that. I'm going to fold it in a third over the top, like so. I'm then going to get my jar. I'm going to, so what you want to do is make sure that the end, you've got enough to wrap around the bottom. So I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to roll it up like that. Okay, right up like that, got the top there. Okay, that's the bottom bit, it's the thicker bit. I'm going to push that in like that. Okay, wrap it round, push down onto the pot, and then very carefully slip your pot out, and then you've got a paper planter as well. That's really easy. And again, if it's a paper and you're planting the seed in here that then is going to go into the garden, for instance, then you can just plant the whole lot. Okay, so what else? In terms of growing things, there are a number of things you can obviously grow inside. So there are things like radishes, tomatoes, spring onions work particularly well. The best is things like cut and come again lettuce. Well, what's cut and come again lettuce? Well, basically it grows a bit, you cut it off, and then it carries on growing. So it keeps giving. It's that salad that keeps giving. The other things that you could look at is actually growing for some food scraps. So when you take the top off your carrot, just put that in a dish of water, tiny bit of water, and eventually you'll see that started to sprout. You won't get a whole carrot, obviously. What you'll get is the green part of the carrots, which is really lovely as well. You can also do that with the base of a celery. Again, put that in a little bit of water. You won't regrow your celery. Again, you'll get a nice leaf that you can use in salads. And if you've got some garlic, again, like your potatoes, quite often that sprouts. Again, you can put that in a little bit of jar of water. That will grow some garlic sprouts, which are really tasty, a bit like chives, really. Okay, and I think we are about done. Thank you very much for joining me, and I hope to see you soon. Thanks, bye.